born where there were no enclosures and where everything drew a free breath. I know every stream between the Rio Grande and the Arkansas. I have hunted and lived over that country. I lived like my fathers before me, and like them, I lived happily. Ten Bears, Yamparica, Comanche.
At the time of the European discovery of the New World, there may have been up to 10 million native inhabitants in North America, comprising more than 300 separate tribes.
They were vastly different. Different in appearance. Their languages were different. Their dress was different. Their religions were different. And people must remember that an Indian in the Southwest is not an Indian in the Northwest or in the East. And the Western Indians were vastly different.
Incredibly, by the end of the Civil War, the Native American population had dwindled to less than 500,000.
Despite the assumption that wars and warfare knocked out most of the Indian population, in actual fact, an awful lot of Indians died from disease that was brought by the whites. Give them smallpox or measles or something like that, and it would just spread like wildfire and hit tribes that never even had yet seen a white man and didn't know what was happening to them.
The struggle for survival was difficult, but the Native Americans of the western frontier had adapted for centuries. The Hopi, Zuni, Acoma, and other tribes of the Southwest raised corn in the desert. Shelter from the heat was provided by thick-walled pueblos. Others, like the Paiutes and the Shoshone west of the Rocky Mountains, combined hunting and gathering wild food. The horse allowed the tribes of the Great Plains, the Cheyenne, the Comanche, the Kiowa, the Sioux, to range great distances to trade and follow the herds of buffalo. The Comanches in particular were renowned for their horsemanship. Quanah Parker, war leader of the Quahati Comanches, had an almost magical relationship with his horse.
There were times whenever he would breathe into a horse's nostrils and that horse would get his scent. But at the same time, it was a matter of respecting that horse and that animal, and it was a mutual understanding there. And before too long, they had a respect for one another.
But it was the teepee that came to symbolize the lifestyle of the Plains Indians.
A long time ago, when they built the teepees, some kind of leader tells the people where to camp. They construct the teepee so the door is facing east because the cold wind blows from the north and northwest. Because the warmth comes from the east, they built their teepees facing east, and also the wind won't blow the teepee down.
Each Indian culture produced a rich history of its people, visual images carved in stone, called petroglyphs, and pictographs, drawings on hides. The rituals and legends were passed down orally by the elders from one generation to the next.
My mother taught me the legends of our people, taught me of the sun and sky, the moon and stars, the clouds and storms. She also taught me to kneel and pray to Yusun for strength, health, wisdom, and protection. Geronimo, Chiricahua Apache.
Geronimo's mother taught him well. He defended his beliefs for 30 years and became the most famous Apache in history. Indian children were the promise of the future. Nancy Horncloud still remembers the old ways.
A long time ago, when a child is first born, it is breastfed and spoken to as the mother feeds it. It is told many things, even though they don't understand. They are raised in that manner. They reach the age of 4 or 5 years and are still nursed and spoken to. They never scold them. They just talk to them.
Indian children were cherished. They often rested in the security of a cradle board, diapered with moss and soft deerskin, and powdered with ground earth and buffalo chips.
Our children are very carefully taught to be good. Their parents tell them stories, traditions of old times, even of the first mother of the human race, and love stories and fables. Sarah Winnemucca.
Sarah Winnemucca, a northern Paiute, was called Shellflower by her people. A lifelong Indian activist, her autobiographical account of Paiute life was the first book written in English by a Native American woman.
Oh, with what eagerness we girls used to watch every spring for the time when we could meet with our heart's delight, the young men whom in civilized life you call beaux. We would all go in company to see if the flowers we were named for were yet in bloom. For almost all the girls are named for flowers.
Courtship was difficult under the watchful eyes of the elders, and marriage was often by arrangement. To take a wife, a man needed more than good intentions. In his autobiography, Story of My Life, Geronimo recalled his struggle to marry a young maiden.
Being 17 years of age, I was admitted to the Council of Warriors. Perhaps the greatest joy to me was that now I could marry the fair Alope. I went to see her father. He asked many ponies for her. I made no reply, but in a few days appeared before his lodge with the herd of ponies and took with me Alope.
Tribes used rituals to bond their members together. Although tribal customs and religious beliefs varied, dreams and visions were seen as prophetic links to the future.
A long time ago, my father told me what his father told him, that there was once a Lakota holy man called Drinkswater who dreamed what was to be long before the coming of the Washichus. He dreamt that a strange race had woven a spider's web all around the Lakotas, and he said, "When this happens, you shall live in square gray houses in a barren land, and beside those square gray houses, you shall starve." Black Elk, Lakota Sioux.
By the mid-19th century, the tribes were losing their ancestral lands to white settlement. Opposing views about the land would become the focus of conflict in the Wild West.